So, welcome everyone to our new moon water guardian call, Loving Waters here, and all of us connecting as one with our waters. It's really beautiful. We're just calling from around the world today. It's so beautiful, gorgeous, and happy to be here. It's early morning in Jiroa in Australia. I'm still being called here to this beautiful place by the ocean. And by the way, what's really gorgeous is that the whales, I walked way out to the heads last night because the whales are now migrating past this area. Definitely calling out to them, but haven't seen them. So we hold them in our gorgeous consciousness today on this call. And we're going to allow Maya Shagale to open our call. Welcome to everyone, and I'm sure there'll be other people getting on. So with that, I'll put myself on mute, and Maya, please do us the honor of blessing us.
Well, welcome everybody. It's always so beautiful to gather, knowing these hearts that we share are holding such respect and honoring of the waters. And so let's all just take a couple of nice, slow, deep breaths and calling in the spirit of the whales, whose breath is such a powerful, slowed down rhythm, and like the tides, and just attune together with our breath, knowing that as we fully exhale, we fully let go, and we're letting go during a time now of the old patterns dissembling and crumbling, and letting go of the old ways, and fully exhaling. Then the inhale comes naturally and easily, and drawing in the new patterns. And I want to honor the deep primordial waters that live beneath the earth's surface, down in the caverns and the cenotes and the deep places that have preserved that beautiful crystalline pure codes and structures that we are returning to. And honor and thank the deep primordial waters, reminding us of our purity and our innocence. And I call then in honor of the waters on the surface of the earth that flow in the rivers and the streams into the ocean, and reminding us how to move with grace on the earth, in our bodies, to move around obstacles with resilience and grace. And thank you to the waters of the surface of the earth. And then I call to the waters, the celestial waters that exist, we know now, everywhere in space, among the planets and the stars in the nebula, and even in the sun. And that beautiful, the celestial waters that come to us from space and come to us here on earth through the cloud people, nourishing our plants and our animals and ourselves and our surface bodies of water. And thank you to the celestial waters. And just holding that image of the three levels of water. And I'm visioning today each of us, and as we breathe in, attuning to the watersheds within us, the streams and the rivers of our arteries and veins with our blood, and the water that flows into our cells, nourishing and replenishing and carrying out waste. And it's that same rhythm that responds to the moon of the tides coming in and out, that our own fluids move in our bodies, along with the rhythm of our breath moving in and out. And today we are attuning to the new moon in Gemini. The new moon, that Gemini energy that speaks of the polarities. And now we're honoring the polarities, the opposites, and bringing them together in unity. And yesterday was a day the Mayans honored as a opening for the ninth wave of unity consciousness to be accessed by humanity. And how beautiful in the time of the Gemini new moon that this ninth wave of unity come, that we hold, that the waters, and gratitude to the waters that are helping us here on this earth now recognize our oneness, our unity, recognizing that we are all water, and water is the source of life. So water as an element, as a divine being of fluid consciousness, is reminding us of our unity and our oneness, our connectedness. So I say deep, deep gratitude. Thank you to the waters of my body, of our bodies, the bodies of all living beings, the waters of the earth, the heavens, and the below. And with all this, I open us now to share with each other, to come back and listen and share our love for water and our ways of celebrating and honoring water. Oh.
Wow. Ooh, it's taking a few extra moments to feel into the waters of this collective. As you were sharing, I could see the pods of whales, and I just feel like we are a pod here. We're a pod of water advocates, of water beings, of water beloveds, people that are really recognizing and wanting to share their understanding, weave our wisdom together. And really that's what this call is all about, and to really learn more about our relationship to the waters on earth and how we can, as a communion. And I love that you brought in the ninth wave and that information from the Mayan calendar, and this sense of unity consciousness, just so gorgeous. So, wow. So coming here this morning, feeling so honored and so blessed. We're coming here for those that are watching this and who might be new, that Loving Waters was really initiated with the desire to bring more awareness, to bless our waters, to do water blessings. We're understanding through individuals like Masaru Emoto and many others on the planet, how our gratitude and love for the waters can actually shift not only the consciousness, but we're discovering that literally we can shift the pH of the waters by bringing our love. There's so many people out there doing water blessings, come together, water protectors, still holding Standing Rock. And I see Jim is on with us today. He'll share a little bit of an update of what's happening with all of those people that are still standing for the waters, standing tall. And so we welcome everyone here. And that Loving Waters is really a community, a growing community of making visibility these watersheds, and sharing. Towards the end of this call, specifically, we like to get in and really share what are those practices that we're doing. Let's inform each other, infuse our growing expansion of our relationship to the water, to the stars, to the earth, to the trees. I just read this incredible article by Claire Dubois, sharing about the relationship of trees to the water, and that divine feminine, how did she say it? It was feminine nature leadership, something like that. So divine feminine leadership, that's really what we're moving forward as this communion of co-creative souls coming together, with that, working with our intuition and with that highest consciousness in regards to living our lives in new ways. And I loved Maya, how you also brought in just that letting go of the old patterns. This is the new moon. This is the possibility of rescaling and recalibrating how we do what we do. So welcome everyone. And this is an opportunity to just, we're going to just connect and share. We also want to honor the Loving Waters Guardian Council, Maya and Charlie and Julie and our newest council member, Kathleen. And we honor Elizabeth and who we're just holding her in the space as well. So I'm just going to open the call and allow the waters that's emerging through us and as us to speak, and just sharing, 2 to 3 minutes. And please share your watershed. And if you don't know what it is, we'll help you or we'll find out so we can support you in learning more about really participating and hosting in these beautiful water blessings as well. So with that, I'm just going to open the call and I'll share after everyone. Much love. This beautiful crystalline talking stick is up.
Okay, I'll start if you want. Good to be here. Jim Graywolf. My watershed is the Poudre River. I live right above it in Colorado. It comes out of Rocky Mountain Park, pardon me, and it's the only wild and scenic river in Colorado. So I'm quite blessed to lay there at night and listen to it this time of year roaring by below my windows. Oh, yeah. Shelley mentioned Standing Rock. So a little bit of update on things going on, which Standing Rock, like so many of the other movements, is morphing into other things now. It's morphed into Water is Life movement, which we've been playing a large role in. Some of the groups we have one is 137,000 people, others are smaller, but also playing a role in things. This call started, I was getting, tells me my connection's unstable. Do the best I can. Wave if you can't hear me. I was getting messages that one of the prime people from Standing Rock, Prolific the rapper, has been found not guilty of all charges. I'm trying to see what those were. They had a host of charges against him, which could have meant 20 years in prison. All ridiculous. Mostly it was dismissed because of the videos, which when a lot of us stood up and said, we are the media won't do it, it's paying benefits now. I think what we're seeing a lot, and we need to see even more, any of you connected to me, you'll start seeing more and more about unity. Unity has to be the key word now. We have some young people out on the road, some really beautiful young people who are there specifically to visit the different waters, to visit the different camps, to visit the different groups, and talk about unity and propose uniting not just the Water is Life movement, but uniting with the women's movement, all the other movements that are going on right now. I won't list them. We'll sit here all day. So that's an awesome piece as far as I'm concerned. I had a real up and down last couple of days. A good friend, Jim Beard from Sedona, who was 86, just dropped his robes yesterday and took his spirit walk. And so I had very mixed feelings because Jim was a brother, an uncle, a teacher, a lot of different things. He served on the board of directors of Sanctuaries of the Earth Mother with me. And we need those elders right now. But it's interesting because the night before he took his walk, well, about a week ago, Sue and I went down and saw him. And it seems like we were one of the last people who were there who actually, he was able to wake up and talk and carry on a conversation. But he said, I'll be in touch, doesn't matter which side I'm on. And so the night before he passed, we had some loud noise at our door downstairs, but nothing was there. Some wind blowing our windows, although there wasn't any wind. So I started thinking on this, and I got in touch with some other elders I know. And it seems to me right now, and I think this is important for our group here and our other water groups, we needed to get out there in the last year and strongly speak, strongly take actions. Standing Rock made us all aware of what's going on with our water. And it's gone global now. Now we've got to rebalance. And I actually posted something today about this. We've got to bring in now more of the spiritual, more of the prayers, more of the ceremonies, so we are back in balance. I think we had to go really strong with action because, quite honestly, we had talked too much and not acted enough. Now we want that pendulum to be in the middle. We don't want it to swing the other way. We can't afford this back and forth stuff. And so I'm committing all our groups and my own personal work to rebalancing some of the spiritual aspects right now, even as we support some of these people who are out there taking action and walking amongst the groups. There is a lot of turmoil. And I know, I get it. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people are confused. But even within a lot of the movements, there is turmoil. There is finger pointing. That's not the kind of thing we want. And so I think in any way we can, that we can support unity, coming together, remembering this is about the four colors coming together. It's not about any one of us. It's about men and women coming together in equality and harmony. It's about all those things that have been talked about for generations. And so in a couple of weeks, I think it's like June, 5th or 9th, it's a Saturday, we're going to be doing a water blessing here in Colorado. And once again, we're going to invite groups around the world to do it with us. So it'll be a water blessing and then a drum circle. That's how we generally do ours. So we welcome everybody. If you do that, or whenever you do your ceremonies, I would really suggest send prayers, send energy to all the people out there who are doing each aspect, whether it's the spiritual, whether it's the action, whether it's the teaching, because they're all needed to move ahead and have our waters safe and healthy again. I think that's all, unless anyone has questions specifically about other things going on.
So, Jim, let's let everybody share, and then we'll bring back the questions, if that's all right. And thank you so much. This is like so perfect that we're weaving all of this together. And we'll be doing water blessings on June 9th as well. So this is a way that we can support each other. So gorgeous. So, yeah, let's just keep opening the circle, the oceanic circle here.
I would like to go next.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Well, I'm sitting at my son's football game, and I don't have really great reception, and my phone's doing weird things, so bear with me. I had a really beautiful, beautiful experience. Our last full moon, we gathered on the beach here with our red tent, so it was all women. And after our red tent, it was just a few of us. We did the water blessing. And my favorite part of doing the water blessing is inviting people to co-create it, allowing them to participate and do whatever they feel called. And I think that it empowers them, and it provides an opening for them to say, hey, I can do this, and yes, I'm can speak for the water, and you bring the attention to their inner waters. And it's been really beautiful to witness the people that step up and realize this is going on. So after we did the water blessing, and a couple of us stayed on the beach, and a humongous sea turtle came out of the water right in front of us, and we went down, and it took a little while for her to crawl up the sand, and so we stayed with her, and my friend played the Native American flute, and she stopped just right where we were sitting. It was the most amazing thing to witness this big sea creature. And I guess she was doing her thing, you know, burying herself in the sand and getting ready to lay her eggs. But it was such a blessing to witness this creature of the water after we had just connected to the water. And just even seeing this creature in person, it was absolutely amazing. And I feel really honored. And had I not been doing these water blessings, I would never have gotten, well, I don't know, never, but you know, it would just open that door to that realm that I was able to participate in. So, you know, I'm not out there all the time blessing the waters. I feel like sometimes my calling is more of the internal waters in assisting with the healing, whether it's, you know, really working on myself first, but then, you know, whoever I'm in contact with, helping them to realize, you know, that aspect of their internal waters has been my calling. And I just finished my Reiki 2 class. And so, yeah, so I feel like there's some work there for me to do, and another door opening. I had a really great experience. Being introduced in meditation through my guides, which had never really experienced before. So, and then through that, just in the last week, opening up to, I don't know, you said this, the ninth wave. And is the wave the same as the ray, the ninth ray?
I'm not sure because that comes from a different tradition, but it's possible. I just know this one is the Mayan tradition, and it is like they describe it as a wave of a vibrational wave that we need to raise our vibration to kind of match it to do. And that's why there was so much ceremony yesterday with the San Bush people in Africa, who were very tuned into this as well. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, it's kind of the same. What I learned is that we're coming out of this Piscean age, going into the Aquarian age, and then we work with these different rays. And the rays of this time is like bringing back ritual, bringing back ceremony, bringing back the ability to do healings. Like all of that is coming back up, which is the same goal, is to bring about unity and love and, you know, healing of our planet. So basically it sounds like we're on the same thing. So that's about it. And it's really good to see everybody's faces. Hi, Charlie. Shelly, I miss you being around. So thank you.
Miss you too. And Lori, I apologize. I can't remember just because I'm in Australia. The time is all crazy. But Lori is one of our water guardians here at Loving Waters as well. So just want to honor you and how you stepped up and how incredibly amazing. I love it. Such a model for so many. So thank you.
So I would love to step in next. I was very excited listening to Jim and to Lori. And yeah, yesterday was so powerful. This day, I knew about it about 2 weeks in advance and planned a ceremony. It ended up being much smaller than the original people who said they were come, but it was very powerful. And as I stepped into facilitating it, I started with a fire ceremony. I also do fire, and not as frequently as I do the water ceremonies, but it was very magical as I slowly built this ceremonial fire. The people there were commenting on how different the fire was, how feminine it was, how fluid and liquidy that it was. And then we ended up sharing about the polarity of the Gemini moon now, and this bringing together the polarities into unity and the divine masculine and feminine, that the fire and the water, because I also had a beautiful crystal bowl of water with rose quartz crystals that I use in the water ceremonies and the water blessings. They're right next to the fire, and many times we brought the water over the fire and spoke and shared, and participants shared songs and stories of bringing together the masculine and feminine, and somehow that, you know, the water and the fire, and knowing that fire has water within it. It's just such a beautiful thing. And so that was part of what it meant to me when it was bringing together my masculine and feminine, and also what you spoke, Jim, about the balance of activism and action in the world, and this more inner, I call subtle activism, is the tuning to our spiritual connection and inviting the support of the divine energies in ceremony. And so it represented that to me of bringing those two into balance, which I'm very much about trying to bring into the community here in the Santa Barbara Watershed area, with all the activist groups. And I was so honored to participate in an evening of subtle activism where this beautiful native flute player and ceremonial leader, Emiliano, invited all different activist groups and religious groups to come together in an evening of honoring all of our intentions to protect the water and to protect Mother Earth, and our activism, our environmental activism, but to do it through prayer and song and drumming and sharing. And it was so beautiful. It was such a great invocation to the community to honor that balance. So I want to continue that very much. And I'm also here as part of the Tribal Trust Foundation, really holding the space for the indigenous, the women's leadership and the indigenous leadership to step forward now in the environmental justice movement. So that's a part of our mission. And always, whenever we're doing ceremony, whoever is present, if there are no indigenous people present, we call on the spirits of the ancestors of the land and invite the wisdom of the indigenous people to be a part of our honoring. And yes, and the other thing was in the last water blessing ceremony, I do co-facilitate with a Shumash elder, and he informed me a couple months ago, we did a ceremony by the Mission Creek influx into the ocean, and he shared with me that that was the place of the first landing of the Spaniards, and that it had always held this very negative energy. It was the beginning of the conquest. And at the end of our ceremony, we took our blessed water and poured it there on the land and into the end of Mission Creek. And coming back to that same place 2 months later, many people commented on the difference in the energy there. And Art, who's very sensitive to that, said, wow, we have really made a difference here. We have really helped to clear some of the past trauma. So just another example of how the beautiful water, blessing it and helping it to return to its original structure and to carry our prayers and our intentions is so powerful in that cleansing process. And again, just honoring the water as the initiator of our unity consciousness at this time on the planet. Complete.
This is Kathleen. Can I speak? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sweetie.
Okay, great. Thank
Welcome, welcome.
you. Yay, it's lovely to be here. Well, it's really beautiful to hear everybody, what you're sharing. And I'd like to share an experience from last week, actually, Thursday of last week. I was honored to do the water blessing in a gathering with the three of the grandmothers, with Mary Lyons from Minnesota, who has done a lot of work at Standing Rock, and we were able to have time to talk about that, as well as Doreen, grandmother Doreen from New Zealand, and grandmother Flora de Mayo from New Mexico. And I still actually get chills when I think of just whatever has, opened this path for me to be on and to be in. That I know that my purpose is really I'm just so honored, really, to have that be my purpose. And at the same time, I know that we all need to keep vigilant on this journey. And I just want to, keep my eyes open all the time, and to stay in my heart, hold it, and stay connected to Earth and her desires and needs, as well as being a connector for the community to come together and to feel those connections as well, to themselves, to the water inside of them, as well as to the waters all around the world. And one of the beautiful things at the fire ceremony, there was over 100 people there. And Mary Lyons and I went down to the water before the ceremony, and we collected the water. And she sang an Ojibwe song. I mean, actually built it out, an Ojibwe song, loud, and I could just feel all of the trees shaking with the sound of her voice as I picked the water up from the river, from the Des Plaines River. And I'm part of in the Great Lakes region, to let you know where I am. And then during the ceremony, as I was blessing the water, I too was brought into the idea a couple of days before to connect everyone in the circle, anyone who was going to turn up, and to have them feel that they were really part of it, rather than just, voyeurs, to actually participate. So I had two ways in which came to me for them to participate. And one was I passed the water in a brass bowl with a feather, and asked them to drop into their heart and to set their intentions in gratitude for the water. And started at one end with the grandmothers and passed it around. And everyone who was there, actually, every time I looked up, I saw someone new holding the bowl. And each person was so sacred as they were holding the bowl, from the children to the elders to everyone that was there. And the second thing that I did, that came to me just the day before the ceremony, was using all of the colors of all of our skin. And I went further, I went into the Oceanas, having it to be blue, and the Asian and African and Europe and the Americas. And I put lines of pigment of these colors onto a round canvas board. And it just came to me, using water as the blending, as the united force, as the liquid that brings unity, as if all the waters are connecting in the world, they are connecting the waters within us and to each other. And so I put some of the ceremonial water on there, and using the feather, I went the other direction and passed that around for everyone to set their intentions of unity. And so I loved hearing that come up in the conversation tonight. And again, every time I looked up to see who had the, the artwork, essentially, each person just was so sacred in holding it with, and you could just feel their heart opening with the intentions for unity, as well as recognizing the power of the water to bring us together. So I wanted to share that, and just really this past 60 days have been very beautiful, very sacred, very moving through the water. I was in Ireland at Bridget's Well, where we did ceremonies with the shamans there, and I brought some of that water back to this ceremony, and yeah, it's just, it feels as Jim said, all of these movements are rising at the same time. The feminine, the environmental in a broad sense, the matriarch, I think a new patriarch, if that is even, I think we need new language around some of this, but men are actually really surprising me lately. I think they may be surprising themselves, but I feel this coming together of the masculine and the feminine that's very, very strong recently. And so yeah, I'm hopeful, and I want to continue, and thank you for everything all of you do. And it's wonderful to get to know you all more, and to know that you're out there, and to support you also in whatever that you are doing. Thank you, Shelley.
Charlie, I think you're talking, but we can't hear you. Charlie, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Yes? Okay. It's a crazy headset I have that does what it wants. It's so beautiful to hear each one of you speak of the unity and the flow of this call tonight, about coming together and the balancing or rebalancing of the masculine and feminine through the waters. And this is really, the water is unity. And we are such beautiful water beings. And I think we're all coming to realize that beyond this human body, we are the water, that without the water, the body doesn't exist. So we really have been called back to honor the true presence of our nature, both spiritual and physical, which is basically in the joining of the hydrogen and oxygen, in unity throughout the universe, throughout the galaxy. And with that said, many of you know that I primarily do blessings alone. I'm not one who is much of a show person, but I will be doing my first public, or be at one, on the 3rd of June in Boston. Shelley, yay, Shelley. And it's interesting because for me, the heart resonance is about, it's the Charles River, and that's where I was born. I was born less than a mile or half a mile from the Charles River. And that's the first river. I call it my entry river. And I've been called to bless all the rivers in Maine. So it's an interesting circle to be called back to that river which I knew as polluted as a child. I learned to fish there. I learned to swim in a pool. You couldn't swim in the river, in a pool on the side of the river. And so I have this opportunity to go back and do this blessing. And it's really an amazing honor for me to do that and to join with others, which is part of Loving Waters, which I appreciate, is to meet others and get together with others. As I say, I usually work alone. So it has been a wonderful journey this spring, even though we've got tons of rain, so you get wet, but the rain is beautiful. I love it. And the rivers and the water are flowing here in New England quite abundantly, and to be out there in their presence and listen to their song is really been amazing. So I've started my journey up the coast of Maine, and my next river blessing will be, it'll be 3 rivers in one, where 2 merge into one river before it hits the ocean. That will probably be next week sometime. I'm not really sure. But thank you all for all that you do. Interestingly, I work with crystals in the water, and I've been placing crystals in the water for years, but more so now. And I was called in the past couple of weeks to use crystals from Arkansas, and I don't know why, but that's interesting. And when I put out the quest for one, somebody sent me 75 crystals. So here is the message that we're on the path. We're doing what we're doing uniquely, individually, and when we align with our hearts, it automatically flows. So keep going, keep flowing, and just trust your heart. And yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you all. Bless you. And I'm complete.
Hello, it's Julie, Canberra, Australia. Not too far from Shelley, which is great for the minute. I just want to acknowledge what Jim Grey Wolf brought and acknowledge what's happening now in Australia, which is that it's the start of National Reconciliation Week, and it's a really big event because it's 50 years since a referendum in 1967 that recognised Aboriginal people in the Constitution, and 25 years since Eddie Mabo really fought for land rights. So today is when was a National Sorry Day. It happens every year, and in my city, which is the capital, people walk across the Commonwealth Bridge together. So it's at 10:30, which hopefully I'll get there. And there's also a meeting of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, 300 of them at Uluru, which is where Shelley and we went for the. And it's a very, very important event. It happened a number of years ago, and this is really a First Nations convention and running over 4 days to really how to move forward in terms of Aboriginal rights. The situation is really not good here. So holding this goes on for a week, this Reconciliation Week. So this is the beginning of it today. And that unity, in a way, there are many of you in the north. And just to hold the Indigenous people here, if you could, please. I spoke with an Aboriginal man earlier this week, and it was really, really good to meet with him very briefly, but to talk about how can I really bring I feel like the water blessings that we do are very different to what the Aboriginal people do. They use smoke, and there's a lot of dancing, and I'm involved in this event in July, in early July, and there will be Maori people coming, and there will be Aboriginal, and I want to make sure that what we do in the water ceremony incorporates, but it's very difficult to meet with somebody. So, and it was so interesting because he just took me to this spot right at this shopping centre, and he said, "Now look, here is the church. Here is the stone, which would have been the grinding stone. Here are the casuarina trees. Here is the creek. This was an important gathering place. So there would have been acacia trees here." And the church being here makes it, this was an important place. Know that that where you have water, you have pollinator corridors, and it was just like, oh, of course, this brings together what we're working for. And so somehow he just said, and I said, well, is it okay if we do this? And he said, on Lake Taugranon, and he said, well, you've got to do it at this time of year. And I said, well, how do I find out this? And he said, well, this was where the bogong moths came through, and that's where the yam daisy, and it's done at different places around at different times. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is just incredible. And then I sort of went away and thought about it, and thought about these ceremonies have done in different places at different times to do with the water. And in 150 years or 100 years, we have changed the landscape so profoundly. There would have been 300 people moving in this territory, a really large area. And now we have 300,000 people living in one space all the time. And that has brought such a profound change to the waterways, to the pollinator corridors, to all life. And it was like what was done in the past absolutely had was totally right for that time where things were in balance. And now things have just been tipped up in such profound ways. As I said, $80 million is being spent on this Tuggeranong Lake to bring the water quality back up. And, our little water blessing, we're going to do it again there next June, because I just feel like it just needs a lot of love and attention. So I'm bringing a whole lot of different qualities, and maybe there's a whole lot of different questions that are there for me of how to work with local Indigenous people. For me, how to meet them. And then how to incorporate in the ceremonies ways we can work together. How can we work together? And the other side of it is I've just wanted to read you something which is a children's book, because I just think it's very beautiful. It's called One Well, and it just is a really, I think in many ways, just bringing that sense that everybody has spoken about, that the one water, and it speaks to it so beautifully with pictures from all around the world. And imagine for a moment that all the water on earth came from just one well. This isn't as strange as it sounds. All water on earth is connected. So there really is just one source of water, one global well from which we all draw our water. Every ocean wave, every lake, stream and underground river, every raindrop and snowflake and every bit of ice in glaciers and polar ice caps is part of this global well. So whether you are turning on a faucet in North America pulling water from a well in Kenya or bathing in a river in India, it is all the same water. And because it is all connected, how we treat the water in the well will affect every species on the planet, including us, now and for years to come. And it speaks so beautifully in language that we can all understand. It's not only for the children. It's for all of us, and it goes through the different water. And what is surprising for me was that the real water in the rivers is actually very small. 97% of it's in the oceans, 2.1% is in the ice caps. The groundwater is 0.6%, freshwater lakes 0.009%, inland saltwater seas 0.008, moisture in the soil 0.005, water in the atmosphere 0.001, in the rivers 0.0001%, 1/1000% in the atmosphere. And yet it's so important. And there was this picture of, I don't know if it was on Loving Waters, but there was the waves when they break on the shore, they send up a spray, and that is carried up into the upper atmosphere where it circulates around the planet. They've found that those particular, some scientific discovery, that the minerals are actually carried through the upper atmosphere, through that spray. And it's only because it lands on the land that actually happens. So it's this beautiful interplay. So that was many journeys. I hope I haven't caused you indigestion. But yeah, thank you. And I'm just turning off my visions because there's so much happening in my house. There's people coming and going. It's just quite distracting. Thank you.
Julie, this is Maya. I very much would love to speak with you about the working together with the Indigenous people and the reconciliation. I want to hear more about Reconciliation Week because here, the Tribal Trust Foundation in Santa Barbara, we're inviting the City Council and then the County of Santa Barbara to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. And we're also, that's a first step in a much bigger reconciliation movement. So I would love to share more and hear more about what's going on in Australia. I was sad to hear that it's not a good situation. I had such a vision of Australia being more recently honoring of the Indigenous and Aboriginal people.
Thank you, Maya. That would be really good. Let's meet outside of the call.
I would love to.
Same for me. I've worked with Indigenous people for 35 years around the globe, including I've had some Aborigine teachers. So yeah, if you need to hear what I've done or how I've done it or what goes on when you work with Indigenous people, I'm happy to respond.
Thank you, Jim.
Great.
That would be really good.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
So Dinama and Deanna, if you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you. And I'd like to be on that call too. So I'll have to figure out what to do.
No, I think I have to sign off. I have to go take care of my computer. I only have an hour left, so I need to. Thank you.
Good luck.
And I'm sorry. Yes, yeah. Anytime dealing with technology, good luck. So thank you.
Love you. Talk to you soon.
Big flow.
Bless you, Maya. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the blessing. All right, I'm Deanna. I think I've been on the call one time, and I don't remember who was on it, but I was called to seek out and learn more about water blessing. I guess it's been about a year and a half ago that I started my journey to figure this out, and I know I've been called to the water my whole life, but I've been working in the environmental field primarily with groundwater, a little bit with surface water, to help the federal government clean up some of their hazardous sites where there was spills historically before there were environmental laws. So in doing that technical work of trying to clean up those sites, I realized that there's only so far we can take it, and with the technology, and what remains is still not pure. So that bothers me pretty deep down inside, because it was my soul's purpose to help the water, and that's probably why I ended up in the field. So I started searching for a spiritual way to, because I know Creator can do anything, so there's got to be a spiritual way that I can participate in helping with these residual concentrations of bad stuff in the water. So I took a couple of courses. One was with Chief Phil Lane Jr., and I learned about the unity movement through him. And I learned about the talking circle approach and got on a talking circle with some of the ladies from that group. And I'm still on talking circle with many of them, and still in touch with some that are not on the call anymore. And many of them are water faithful. So I've learned some from those people that are doing water blessing and have been for a number of years. And I was fortunate about a month and a half ago, I got to go up to Sacramento area, and one of my sisters from that call got to do water blessing with her on the American River. And she's been doing that for several years. So she's got a deep connection to that area. And she encouraged me to stop searching and just start doing. So, so I did. And another person that helped me here in the San Diego area, I'm in the San Diego Watershed, and this came out of the Standing Rock movement. A person I now call my friend David Fernandez Jr. went to Standing Rock, and he's a documentarian. And he got a ceremony and a group together in November, late November, here in San Diego, and about 80 people came. And I was really excited about that because I thought, okay, here's my chance to connect with some local people. So I thought something was going to come of that, but nothing really came of it. And I didn't want to lose my connection with those people because I felt that that was important. So I just followed my friend's advice, and I started going down to the ocean. So I started doing the monthly full moon water blessing in the February full moon. So I've been going down there every month. And when I had to be out of town in April, a few of the people, nobody came at first, but a few of the people started coming. And we also do a fire ceremony, so that was really nice. And a friend of mine, sister Mama Apache, started coming, and she brings her drum and I bring my drum, and she teaches us her songs. So I kind of have a native thing starting there, an indigenous native thing starting, which is good. And we do opening ceremony, and then we do the fire ceremony, and then we all go down to the water. And what I did is I collected water during the first ceremony back in November. I collected enough water so that I could continue to bring part of that water every time we do a ceremony. And then everybody puts some of that water back into the ocean. They do it however they want to do it. There's no instruction on how to do it. They just connect the way they want to connect to the water. And then they recollect some water while they're down there. And then I gather that up and mix it in with the original water. So we're continuing to mingle those waters from each of the blessings. So in April, when I was unable to be there, I was really thrilled that the group continued the process without me. So, you know, sometimes we go down on the new moon just because we want to see each other and we're just being called. The area that we're doing it is not, it needs healing. This area section of town where the beach is. So that was the place where David had selected to have the original ceremony. And I considered going somewhere else because I knew I was going down there by myself. And then I thought, no, this place needs the healing. I'm just going to go down there. If it starts to get dark, I'll just leave if I'm by myself. So I've continued to keep it at that same place. And one of the things that we noticed during the time that we went on the new moon was how much different we all were than on the full moon nights. And I was just delighted with that because that shows that we're all deepening our connection with the natural world and we're understanding how it's affecting us. So to me, that's progress in deepening my connection with the earth. And I could tell you much more, but I have stories. Like a friend of mine was also in Australia recently. I don't know if you guys attended the Gathering of Eagles that was down there about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So my friend Susan Christensen was down there and she told a beautiful story and she offered to let me share it, but I don't want to take up too much time. So I thought it was more important for me to share with you my journey and what I'm doing with the water. So I'm honored to be part of this group, and a lot of the things that you guys said have really, you know, it makes me think of other things to share. Like Shelley, your comment about changing the pH of water. I'm looking at a site right now in New Mexico where the pH of the water is 3.9, and the whole 500,000 a year is getting spent on pumping and treating this water and discharging it. And I know you can change pH with your mind because I was participating in a scientific experiment at a seminar about a year ago, and I was tested and I actually did it. So I was shocked when I was able to do it and I got really excited. So I know it's possible. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can tackle these problems without having to spend $500,000 a year and our resources, our electrical resources and things that we're doing to our environment to try to fix these problems. So that's why I'm really excited to be part of this group, and thank you for listening and bringing your time and energy to the water and to this call. Thank you so much.
I'm just going to jump in, Deanna, because I have been searching for you. I really remember your call. I remember you coming on the call and it spoke so deeply to me because you were working from the scientific point of view. And I wanted to get in touch with you more and speak to you again because I'm not a scientist, but I'm working with scientists just with environmental education. And at the moment, I'm a bit on, I haven't told them I'm involved in Loving Waters because it's just too left field for them. And so I want to be able to bridge that in a way, that divide. And I'm really grateful you've come back and that we found you again, because there's many conversations about how we can work in the mainstream in a way that unifies, that we go together. It's also this conference I'm involved in next month is to do with scientists, Aboriginal and artists, and they've asked, they've put the whole thing around the Loving Waters full moon blessing. They decided that was the weekend it was going to be. It's like, oh my God, this is so important, and how am I going to do this? So it's a bit of a. So
you're going to do it beautifully. and you're going to do it your way, and everything's going to work out, and I'm happy to help. And I don't know how I should share my email, or if Shelly can send you my email. She has my email, but I'm happy to connect with all of you guys on Facebook, and that might be the best way to do it. So I can go on to the Loving Waters Facebook and post something. I'm going to Hawaii next month for Chief Arvel's Peace and Prayer Day. So, you know, if anybody has any prayers that they'd like taken to that event, I'm happy to be the person on the ground helping you join in that prayer on that day. So I'll post something about that event, and then you can reach out and connect to me. How's that sound, Shelley?
It sounds totally perfect. And you can just, in fact, you can, on the chat here, you can just put in your email address and we'll stay connected. But before Janama talks, I just have to share this little bit of magic because this is amazing. So this is how the water works. So we've been trying to find you for how long, Julie? Like Julie's been going, Shelley, come on, don't you have that? You must have that old, you know, the first Zoom call, and I couldn't find anything. In order to do that, I'd have to be looking through all these Zoom calls, and usually I take notes, but that's a lot of work when you're traveling for 3.5 months, and there's no way I'm going to find you. And this is crazy. So last night, I decided, this is going to make me cry. I decided I have about 100 people wanting to be my friend on Facebook, and I cannot deal with, getting a hold of them. So last night I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. Because the Loving Waters call is coming up. I'm going to refriend and post the Loving Water link so that if they're going to, be my friend, I'm going to tell them what's going on. So I started to do that. Well, forget it, man. That was just taking me way too long. I couldn't pay attention to it. And then I started scrolling down, and I don't know how in the world I ended up on clicking on you and opening your old messages. That's what happened. I have no idea, because I was just abstractly putting in a person's name. And so there's no way in a million years I would have found you again, even though I knew you were somewhere, but I couldn't remember exactly who that person was. So I just feel really humbled at how the universe and the waters work to reconnect us when we need to be connected. It is such a message in so many different ways to radically trust the movement of the waters within, right? That's what we've been talking about, that unification, right? Such an important piece. I guess I'm talking before you, Danama. You'll get your chance, but I can do this to her, Mag Mama, because she is going to have something magnificent to say after all this. But I am really thrilled, Deanna, to have you with us. And please consider, we will create a phone call together, because I think it's really important. And also that Julie and I, when we were in Byron Bay, we were working with Christopher Dean and the Water Council there, and they had testing strips. And we went out and we specifically went out and did a water blessing, testing the water first, bringing it out with us, doing the water blessing, and bringing it back and letting them test it. And we have the strips, and we have and Julie can share more about that. But it did shift the pH of the water. And so that was, so we are onto something. And also Loving Waters, for all those also who are listening, we are really heading into phase 2 of Loving Waters. We're celebrating all the magnificent connections that we've made to this point, from Elizabeth doing the website to the initiation of Loving Waters, the brochure, that anyone can go on to lovingwaters.life and pull up a water blessing brochure to use in your community, your water blessings. Take it to your schools, to your teachers. They can do it with the kids. So there's so much that has already occurred. And then Tribal Trust, like Maya was saying, through Maya, Tribal Trust has become a partner with Loving Waters. We have a fiscal sponsorship, and now we can take tax-deductible donations to really create some momentum and propagation of the work we're wanting to doing. But as well, it's time for Loving Waters to also engage locally. And some of the things that Julie's been bringing up and you've been bringing up, Deanna, and I feel like this is where we're headed. So we are going to have a call in the next week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most, to really come together and look at what our phase 2 is in terms of this whole relationship with water. And specifically for me, just having gone just to, we had our Loving Waters journey, Sacred Water Wisdom journey as well. Over the past month, I've flown to New Zealand twice and been living on a marae with the Waitaha, the water bearers, and taking filters to not only the marae, but to Vanuatu, to people who really don't have clean water. And my life has been completely shifted because I had never seen the impact of when you take a bucket and a filter and some little instruments that they can go to Ace Hardware if they get broken, where they can actually see the difference of brown water turning to pure crystalline clear water. And those people, those teachers, that principal of those schools and the church councils, they were holding on to their buckets. They did not want to let go. And they were begging us, please don't leave us with only a few buckets. Where can we get more filters and the buckets? How can we do this? And so we train them how to use them, and now they'll have access to clean water. So I feel like this is another aspect of Loving Waters coming forward that has absolutely impacted my life. Yeah. So, and the other piece was, it was really incredible to meet someone on the marae, Milan Ruka, who is created his own sort of company, Environmental River Patrol, and he is working with others in New Zealand to focus on the land rights of the indigenous people, but giving the land rights back to the indigenous people, the Waitaha and the Maori, and to work on getting the cattle. He goes up and down the rivers, getting the cattle, getting the farmers to wake up, get them off the rivers, and to work with water consciousness and the White Tangi Treaty, where the Waitaha are the ones who were given sort of the calling to protect the waters, right? So, and he's writing all these assessments to the government and federal government. So I feel like the waters are bringing us together, collecting those of us who are really sort of the water guardians, water protectors, but it almost feels like something more. Like here on Loving Waters, what's happening on this call to me is that we are being moved into a greater aspect of that sacred relationship, how to be gentle warriors for the water, and to come together in community and work within our own watersheds and communities. And like Julie's describing that, in some ways I'm like, oh God, I want to be there for that July event because it's so important, what's happening. So anyway, thank you, Dinama, for being so kind to let me jump in there. And also just one more thing, which was so interesting, because in New Zealand, the people are open to sharing their water blessing. The Ojibwe, the nation, the Native Americans, we are beginning to work together. They're seeing that because of Standing Rock and things like that. But when we went to the Water Council, the Water Day in Byron Bay, like still the Aboriginal people with due right, like they were like, we're not going to, they weren't open to sharing anything. These are our sacred, they're still sacred and secret. And so there is a lot to work on with rebuilding that trust. And so beautifully, Julie, I've been learning so much from Julie, how to be gentle and humble and honoring, and how to ask for permission. Can you share? Are you willing? What can we do to bring forward the messages of this indigenous wisdom, these baskets of knowledge? So thank you. I love you all for showing up, and all of those of you who are listening on the call. And I'm going to hand it over to Magmama, Tsunami Magmama, who is just this amazing being and has come on our call today.
Shell, this is Elizabeth. Before I just wanted to presence myself. I've been on for a little while. I had a baby toddler mama meltdown that I had to help manage.
Okay.
But I've been on the call for a little while, so I just wanted to say hello.
Oh, okay, great. Didn't see you. I texted you, but there you are. Fantastic. So we'll let Dinama, and then we'll definitely hand it over to you, sweetheart.
Thank you, love. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad I made it.
We are too. Woo-hoo. So, you know, by my name, there's some divine feminine, a big old wave, and a lot of magma going on. I just feel that deep connection with Gaia. We're so in love. And the water. I did want to say one thing. I live in Southern Oregon. I live in a place called Rouge, which is out of Jacksonville, kind of a historic spot in Oregon where a lot of not nice stuff went on with the Chinese and the railroad and stuff like that. But anyway, I live about 10 miles out of there in a place called Rouge that really has its own climate. And I just noticed today that as I turn off the main highway to come to my house, I'm in the Rouge Watershed. And they have created right there a council location, which of course I will go and become part of. Today, you know, I had no idea. Watershed, I don't know. I'm near the Rogue River, you know. But anyway, so that's, I felt was sort of a sign from the universe. And I also wanted to comment that what you opened with, Shelley, that's how water works. Look how water works. This is, I believe, our message from water. I wrote, it's an inside job. Water informs cellular consciousness. We carry water consciousness in every cell of our body. I'm just saying that it's not just out there in the rivers and the ocean. It is our life force, source. And the piece I wanted to speak to that Jim Graywolf was sharing, and I don't know if I asked you before if you ever lived in Oregon and taught a drumming class, because the gentleman's name was Graywolf, and I have this magnificent drum I call Mother Earth Metamorphosis that I made with him, and I didn't know if it was you. But anyway, moving right along, that you shared about Standing Rock. What I found so magnificent was the living example of our true nature, our home frequency, which is love and oneness and mutual support, collaboration, all of those things we know are natural. Watch our children. And so in that, I felt the world saw the living example of what it's like to live for the good of the whole of us, not the one surviving above the rest, living for the whole, the goodness of the whole of us, which is our natural state and our home frequency. And I believe it lives in water. It informs us all the time. And I also wanted to speak to the cloud people that Maya mentioned. Moving out here to Rouge about a year and a half ago, I've been a lot more in touch with beautiful Gaia, Mother Nature, and these clouds, I started to notice when I was on the porch, there would be like this little congregation of puffy little clouds that would just come over and go like, you know, and then I'd go and they'd go. And finally one day I was like, wait a minute, they're bringing me some kind of message. And that's what I understood. Right there, the cloud people bring us this shimmering awareness, this consciousness of the whole, of source, the water it carries. And then it delivers that into the earth. And then the trees bring it up through their roots and into their leaves and then create oxygen. How much more of water can we be? And on a little side note, I had a sort of a glimmer of a planet of tree beings who chose to create this earth and travel here to live. I don't know where I got that, but somehow it just goes like, yeah, this is a tree people planet. But anyway, that's just a little an aside. So there's our just full on whole relationship with this beautiful field in which we are whole and one. We feel that. You feel that, right? Right now, we know that place. And this is where the power is. This is where we live it into being from this place. And know that water has our back, not just our back, but holy camole. I mean, it delivers seamlessly and on time. And that's all we got to know. And when we walk in our full sovereignty and hold that mother's water in our being and our light, and we just are there, there's nothing more powerful than that. So we're living into it and we're walking each other home. And it's really powerful. It will be a tsunami. It is a tsunami. We're on the crest. So get on your surfboards. Here we go. Okay, I'm complete.
This is Elizabeth. Danama speaks of so many important things. It's always wonderful for everybody on this call. It's so impressive to really allow the water wisdom to bubble up like a spring from the center of the earth. Danama speaks of sovereignty, and I ask us, what kingdom are we sovereign to of? And in my life as a seeker, starting early, around the age of 9, I really looked at that, and I've always been drawn to water. And you know, we all have been taught that water is an essential element. We've been hearing that water is life with Standing Rock, and that's become a meme that has very quickly spread through people that are feeling this impulse of needing to reconnect to our essential natures. And I would like us to shift that slightly in how we receive this blessing to being water as life. That the human species, what ails us and what's impacting the rest of life on this planet is a pathology, a pathological amnesia, where we have forgotten who we are. We think we're this super exceptional species that has something better than every other species on the planet. We have intelligence, we have feelings, we have emotions, we have reasoning, we have opposable thumbs, we have, there's lemurs with opposable thumbs that do this beautiful dance. We're not the only ones that have consciousness on this planet. And this separation from the rest of life is really a separation from our source, which is water. It's a core truth. What water has told me is that all of life in the universe is the creative expression of water. Every planetary body they've been able to scan and assess has some form of water, frozen, gaseous. It's there. It's in the comets, it's in the meteors, it's in interstellar ice, it's everywhere. So when we begin connecting with water, we need to, I believe, heal that dysfunctional relationship with water by removing the species-wide delusion of separation. In every way, and hold that in the forefront of our consciousness, and feel into how in our everyday language we still see water as something else besides us. And that's like looking at yourself in the mirror. It's your backward self. It's not what you really look like. It's the opposite of what you really look like. It's like saying the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. The earth turns from the west into the east. We're always moving into the sun. We're moving towards the sun. And the more we live from that spirit of water as life, the more we are a conduit for the intelligence, the wisdom of water. And the more water can work through us, as us. If we get out of water's way, she'll heal. She always does. She washes clean every particle on this planet in a cycle of renewal. All we have to do is allow ourselves to be her and be that healing with every cell of our body, with every breath we receive from her, with every step we're able to give her in return. And when we look into each other's eyes in that spirit, it's water informing herself. It's water learning and increasing her capacity through us, through our experience on this planet, through the challenges we face, through the love capacity we're able to increase. Yeah. So that's all. I do want to say that on June 25th in my community, we're having a city repair project that started in Portland like 20 years ago. And I've been asked to give a water blessing there for this citywide ceremony and give a workshop on water wisdom. So I'm very excited about that.
Congratulations. And where will that be?
That'll be in Nevada City, California, Northern California. And they're shutting down the street in town and kind of taking over the street with community building activities and events. And yeah, so everybody's invited.
All right.
Well, it's rippling out into the community.
Fantastic.
Indeed it is.
Elizabeth, don't worry, I'm going to be typing up what you just shared.
Yeah.
That was incredible. And I want to just honor the time of this call. It's really important that we do that. And so, Elizabeth, I think there's a lot of static coming from your, do you mind putting yourself on mute?
I'm done.
Here, I can do it. Hold on. I'm just going to do it for a sec. Okay, so just for a second so that we can. So water as life is a really beautiful way to come into this, not a closing of this experience, but a spiraling up of this experience together here today. That so much information has been shared, so much beautiful sharing of water practices and opportunities for us to step in greater ways. And we just want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm muting you, Dinama. And let's just take a few breaths together, because this has been so magnanimous in itself, this call. And just as I'm sitting out, looking out at this bay, where we began this call with the whales that are bypassing, they're carrying the song. We're carrying the songs of water through our hearts here today as a collective, and allowing that to ripple out, crest out, and continue its cycle. And we give great thanks to the ancestors, to all the light beings, all the elementals that are working so hard for this, supporting our consciousness, the raising of this water consciousness on the planet. And we'll just end this call today with a song. So be sure to stay in touch, because June 9th is the full moon water blessing. I believe that'll probably be June 10th in Australia and New Zealand. And it's a great coming together. And I know that also the grandmothers, those grandmothers that were with Kathleen, are going to be in Florida, coming together for a very big water blessing. And they're traveling around Florida. Doreen and Mary Lyons, and I'm not sure about Florida Mayo, but so they're carrying that frequency, that home frequency there, as well as others. Julie, what she's doing. So let's stay in touch. In my travels back to the U.S., which are happening this week, we'll be updating the website, sharing some more articles. We'll create a call, Deanna, so we can all, for those of us that want to begin to really learn more from each other about how to work really locally and with community and indigenous people, and what we can do to, work more with the research and development of shifting the water, cleaning the water, and all of that. So here's this little song, and I'm singing. Well, just everybody can know this song. It's really simple. It's a song that was sung at Standing Rock, was shared from Jessica Bromby when she was at Standing Rock with Mary Lyons, and she said that when this particular song is sung. Everyone for 3 hours just kept singing it. So I'll start it off and we can just end this call with it. And Julie's let me know that World Environment Day is June 3rd, connecting with nature. We have so much going on. So let's keep weaving our information together and see this second phase of Loving Waters as a conduit for the mother's voice. So here it goes, really simple. Water is our body, water is our home. When we go down to the water we are home. Water is our body, water is our home. When we go down to the waters we are home. I know I messed up on one word there, but the energy is there.
That's so beautiful. That's so perfect.
Yeah, it's really simple. Everyone can do it. So,
down and listen.
Yeah. So love to everyone. Please stay in touch. Thank you, Elizabeth. Love that you're here and ended our call with such a beautiful sharing. Ripple those waves of love out to the planet, and we'll see you really soon. Aho.
Aho. Yay.
Mwah. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great meeting you here, honey.
Yeah.
Right.
See you later.
See you later. Bye, everyone.